Khamzat Chimaev came out the other day and was frustrated because he's like, I was promised a title shot, right? And when you read between the lines, you realize, okay, that means Khamzat was offered a fight like against Jared Cannonier or something like that, and he said no. So then he's pissed and frustrated. So he goes on to social media and starts saying that he was promised a title fight and this, that, and the other thing. But the UFC don't care. That's not on paper. That's by word. Word don't mean anything. Contracts and paper do. So Hamza's frustrated because, he's getting offered fights that he's definitely going to turn down. And the UFC can keep biding its time because they just got to offer you 3 fights a year. They could offer Hamza 3 fights a year and he could say no to all 3. And my man isn't fighting this year. So he's going to have to take a fight against a contender at some point in time. So you got McGregor frustrated. We don't have a 300 main event. And who in the heck knows when Khamzat Chimaev is going to fight again. And I can go on and on about that topic. You know me and the channel. We love to talk about Khamzat because we believe he's the future champion. We've been saying it for like 3 or 4 years now. And the bottom line is we're still waiting for a fight for Khamzat. And at this point, do I want to see him fight Dricus? Yes, but Dricus isn't going to fight him. Do I want to see Adesanya fight him? Yes, but Adesanya's not going to fight him. So he's left with like Jared Cannonier, maybe Paulo Costa fight again, maybe Marvin Vettori. These are the fights that, are in front of him. Bo Nickel is on the slow path. The UFC knows he's the future in 2 to 3 years from now. There's no reason to rush him. So he's fighting guys like Cody Brundage. Bo Nickel won't be big until Khamzat wins the belt and no one can, mess with him. Then you can bring up Bo Nickel and say, hey, we have a worthy contender here. So that's what the UFC knows the future in terms of what they think is going to happen. And I think the UFC knows that Khamzat is going to beat everybody, okay? Pretty easily. Don't let the last couple fights against Gilbert Burns, where he had to squeeze down into 170. He's not a 170-pounder. A short notice fight against Usman that he probably really didn't want to take because that was a major risk. But he took it because the UFC had to tell him what they had to tell him at the time to get him to take the fight, and that's that it's a title eliminator, which what does that mean? Because every freaking fight is a title eliminator. Every time 2 guys fight, the loser's not fighting for the title in the next fight. So to tell Khamzat this is a title eliminator is absolutely ridiculous and he shouldn't have bought that because the bottom line is, again, every fight is a title eliminator. So who knows what's next for Khamzat, but if I'm his manager, I'm telling him right now, you got to fight somebody. You got to go in there and fight a top contender and beat him. And then you have some sway. You have some swag behind you. The fans are going to start getting behind you again because a lot of the fans left Khamzat because he didn't make weight, which is absolutely ridiculous because they're giving him a fight against Nate Diaz. And I recognize that a lot of you out there, you want to see him fight Nate Diaz, right? You want to see Nate Diaz, War Diaz, yada, yada, yada. Big freaking deal. Well, Khamzat wasn't interested in that fight, really. Because what does it do for him? Nothing. Nate Diaz wasn't ranked. So then he goes out there and beats Nate Diaz. What's everyone going to say? Oh, you haven't beat a ranked fighter. So he wasn't even motivated for that fight. But guess what? When it came time to fight and he had to fight Kevin Holland on short notice, what did he do? He finished him by submission in less than 2 minutes. And before that, he beat Li Jingliang by submission in about 2.5, 3 minutes. Okay, he struggled with Burns getting down in weight. Okay, he struggled with Usman because he hurt his hand in the first round. I know these are excuses, but it's also reality. This is what happened. I'm telling you now, Khamzat beats everybody on the planet from welterweight up to light heavyweight. Yeah, I said it. Light heavyweight. This man will destroy Alex Pereira right now. He would destroy Dricus du Plessis. And if he could make weight, he would demolish Leon Edwards. If his last name was Pereira, he'd already have 3 belts. Only Pereira gets to come in the UFC and get an instant title shot after beating, 2 people. One of them was tough, though. Bruno Silva, I think it was, that he fought. That man's tough. But he didn't do enough to earn a title shot. It's just the fact that he had history with Adesanya that got him the title shot. And guess what? To Pereira's credit, he took advantage of it. He won the fight. And he got himself a title. And then once you get yourself a title, you can basically defend it. You can move up and fight for the title. You have a lot of options once you get that title. But it's hard to get the first one. And you see what the UFC is doing to Khamzat. And I shouldn't totally blame the UFC because Khamzat's had his problems too. He's injured. He was sick. Then back in the day, You know, he suffered with the vid for a while, so he had a lot of things going on that's not necessarily the UFC's fault. And the UFC worked with him for a time until he missed weight. Until he missed weight. And I'm going to keep saying this about Khamzat, that he's the best fighter on the planet, because when he wins, I want y'all to know that I said it from the beginning. And if he loses, I got no problem coming on here and say, hey, I was wrong. But I don't think he's going to lose. So I have no reason, like McGregor would say, I want to apologize to absolutely nobody, because the man has not lost yet. And some of y'all may be mad. Some of y'all may be upset and frustrated because he didn't make weight and you're a Nate Diaz fan. Get over it. Get over it. He's the best man on the planet, I'm trying to tell you.